All right, here we are again. I am Michael Pearl, and you are at the Daily Bible Manna, and we are in the book of Romans, and we're down to chapter 7, verse 7. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? Now, the reason he asked that question is he just went into a very thorough explanation in 6 verses of how we are no longer under the law. We are now in Christ, in his body, not in our old body of flesh. It has died. When Christ was crucified, the body of sin was destroyed, that henceforth we should not serve sin. So he says, we are now delivered from the law. What should we say? Is the law sin? He invokes the question, if there was this need to get out from under the law and into Christ, then is the law bad? Is it sinful? Now, a lot of people think that way today. When you tell them, I'm no longer under the law, they think, what's wrong with the law? Let me put it to you in a shocking way. I'm not under the 10 Commandments. I'm not under the 10 Commandments that say, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder. I'm not under that 10 Commandments. You say, you mean you can steal and murder and lie and commit adultery? No, I don't mean that at all. Whenever the English had colonized America and British law controlled the colonies, and say it was a crime to spit on the street. Don't know if it was, but say it was. And if you spit on the street, a redcoat can come pick you up and put you in prison and charge you 5 crown or whatever. Now, independence is declared, and we're no longer under British law. So I say, look, I'm not under British law. I'm going to go out and spit on the street. I've always wanted to spit on the street. I got and spit on the street, and I get arrested by American law, by the colony law. How come? Because there's a law you can spit on the street there too. Just because you're out from under the jurisdiction of British law doesn't mean you're out from under the principles of the law, the concept of the law. It doesn't mean you're in a lawless environment now. We've just gone into a new law. We moved from the law of sin and death to the law of liberty in Christ Jesus, which law also makes demands. In fact, much of the law in Jesus Christ is a lot more restrictive. In the Old Testament, Jesus said, you've heard it said, thou shalt not commit adultery. It never told them they couldn't lust. They'd go around lusting all day long and keeping the 10 Commandments. But in Christ, he said, you're not to look upon a woman to lust after her. You commit adultery already. And Jesus said, you've heard it said by them old time, thou shalt not murder, not kill. He said, but I say unto you, if you're angry with your brother without a cause, you're in danger of hellfire. So in the Old Testament, you could be angry with a guy all you wanted to. You go around just all puffed up in pride. No law covered that. But when you come down to the New Testament and Jesus Christ, a lot more restrictive. If you're angry with your brother without a cause, you're in danger of hellfire. If you call somebody a fool, you're in danger of hellfire. Now, I tell you what, that's a pretty narrow law. But I'm not under that Old Testament jurisdiction. So if I commit adultery now, I'm not under Jewish law, which would have me stoned to death out in the street. I'm under the Bible law, which means God's going to bring judgment upon me. Now, if you don't understand that, it's because you have never really looked at the Scriptures closely. You have adopted something you inherited from your parents, and you've carried it down through the ages. So the question was asked here, what should we say then? Is the law sin? Answer, God forbid. Nay, I had not known sin but for the law, for I had not known lust, except the law said, thou shalt not covet. So his answer to that question, is the law useless? Is the law passed away? No, the law is still there. It's just that by that law, even today, I come to know who and what I am. By that law is a mirror so that I can see some of my sin, not enough of it, but some of it. The gospel causes me to see much more of my sin than the law does. So Is the law sin? God forbid. I had not known sin but by the law. He says later, I had not known lust except the law said, thou shalt not covet. So, but I'm not under it. It's just a mirror that I pass by and learn what I am. I come into Christ and I'm under Jesus Christ. Now, if you're not saved, you're still under the law. If you're not born again, if you're not in Christ, you're still under the law. Meaning that if you break it, you'll be damned. So it's still valid to go out on the street and say, have you kept the 10 Commandments? Because if they're sinners and not born again, they're under obligation to obey the law of God. But now that I'm born again, I'm under obligation to obey a much higher law. So we'll stop there. That should be clear.